So, hello again. This is the track Agile Transitions, and my name is Hannes. I'm an Agile coach at Agile Software, and today I will be your host here. I want to introduce you to our next speaker. She is 15 years now in the Agile area. She is founder of the Czech Agile Society and also founder of the Prague Agile Conference, which will be this year at the 10th and 11th of September in Prague. She's also a book author. She wrote the book The Great Scrum Master, which is published at Edison Wesley. And was our keynote speaker last year at this conference. So please welcome Zuzi Sochova.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me? I guess so. Now it works. Okay. So I start with a story. One summer afternoon in 2010, I've been given 3 departments: the developers, testers, and the hardware guys. And I've been asked to form a new department of engineering, which would be more flexible and adaptive to those changes and fast learning, simply be able to form cross-functional teams and serve our customers' needs, right? And I was also asked to think about the structure, how I want to run it, and present it next week, right? So I went home, sat at the garden, and my first feeling was like, wow, I can make a difference! And then it faded out. I was like, oh my God. It actually means that all the 100 people gonna be waiting in front of my office every day, asking for advice. What shall I do? Can you help me with that? Can you do this for me? That person is not really helping me. Can you solve this conflict for us? And can you approve my holiday? I was like, no, that's felt really overwhelming. And I thought, maybe it's really a bad idea, with that all self-organization thing. Why do I always have to fight the system? Do I really need to? It's such a simple. Pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys and appoint them to be managers. It's quite simple, right? So I started to think about that and thinking about giving up. The next morning brought a new light, new energy. And I finally get the courage to fight the system and present later that week my vision of a completely flat structure of that department with self-organizing teams, scrum masters, and no management. Our chairman was a short guy, over his 60s, very formal, smart person, keeping a distance. Always wearing a suit, kind of a, low voice, no hair. And I think he's been very conservative. He got this hierarchy, hard code in his DNA. And, gives the impression that he is always right. So you don't argue with that type of people, right? They are always right. So, next week, time flies. Next week I show up there at a meeting and he's been clearly in a good mood, sitting in front of a table and joking around with all the people, having fun. And then he started the meeting, right? And he said okay, so let's start with the engineering structure, right? We all want to know which kind of managers you have there and how you want to structure it. Yes, sure, I'll just start a presentation here. Hold on a minute. Oh my God, no managers, I don't have any. What the hell do I have a I don't have time. Okay. You asked me to present my vision of this department. So before I start here, right, let me rephrase back the reasons why we decided to change the way we work. And, we need more flexibility because our customers are asking for constant changes. We need to form those adaptive systems which are learning fast, still keeping the technical excellence. And we really want to live our values, which are all over there, saying added value solutions for our customers. Is that correct? Okay, good. So, so good. Now, so I did a research, right? And I checked the other companies who's been, like us, dealing with this complexity and these difficulties in changes in the environment. And I came up with a vision of this flat structure with self-organizing team and no management, which... No management, you said? No management, right? Because no management is actually enabler of that change responsiveness and the flexibility. And after all, I believe we want to be the leaders on the market, so we need to be ahead of those other companies. And we want to be agile, right? So you want to make it agile, this company, right? Yes. Well, I think we can try it. After all, we want to be the modern organization which attracts the new talents. And actually, I stopped listening. I don't remember the rest of that meeting. And I don't know. I don't have a clue what happened and why did he said yes. Because it was completely contradicting his nature. He was conservative, he didn't like the changes. And we've been actually fighting almost every day about this. He doesn't like it, it was not him. But at that time, he said yes. And I actually think that one of the reasons why he said yes to my crazy idea is because I didn't put agile or self-organization or anything like that as a goal. I just said, we need to achieve the flexibility, the adaptiveness. And that resonated with them. And we've been struggling with it. So they feel a need. He says, okay, well, let's try it. After all, this agile seems to be, people talking about it or something like this happen in their mind. So this is my first tip for today. Agile should not be your goal by itself. It's just a way how to achieve your goals. And by the way, I truly believe myself that agile is the best and the only way how to deal with nowadays complexity and changing environment. You may disagree with that, that's okay, right? But it's my personal belief. But after all, you can't take it as the only goal, right? It's not enough. Because it's going to be a significant change. And now, that's a traditional organization, right? A hierarchical structure. The org chart with those managers as black dots over the area. So that's where most of the organization starts. Then you start a transformation, right? And you start to do those yellow kind of self-organizing entities there. The Scrum teams, the extreme programming thing, the Kanban-ish thing, self-organization, and it shows up. Oh, bang, 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 more. Right? Some of those might be dying because they didn't make it. That's okay. You experiment, right? But that's how it starts. You create a snowball, and eventually you make a snowball effect, and everybody is experimenting with those type of structures. And then they get that kind of washing machine called transformation. The problem on this here, over there, is the disconnect. The managers and those collaborative, cross-functional, self-organizing, self-managing teams. They doesn't fit with each other. They don't know what to do. And it's so fast changing and adapting, etc. So you don't know where is it coming from, and it's difficult to understand. The most common question in here, in this stage, and I hear it like almost every day from our chairman, was like, who is responsible, right? I don't know. I was like, I don't know, well, the team is responsible. Oh, the team can't be responsible. Yeah, well, so eventually we end up with my statement saying like, I am responsible. What do you think he said? You can't be responsible for everything. You know what, so the team is responsible for many things. No, it's not possible, right? And we've been kind of in the circles. Endless conversations. So finally, I put the Scrum Masters kind of in between in his mind. And because he's been far away from the company, it doesn't really matter. Because he's been happy to say, okay, there are the Scrum Masters. It's like a managers. So I'm good. And because he didn't really interfere with the company, it worked. But that's the disconnect was there and was quite significant. So my second tip here is that leaders means you need to change first. If you change first, the organization will follow, right? But if you try to change the organization with your current mindset, I tell you what to do, but you're self-organized. Not really. Right? It's like that washing machine. It doesn't really feel good. It doesn't fit with each other. Just like almost impossible. But if you manage to do it this way, and put the leaders first, really, with your approach, in your thinking, then maybe those dots will kind of click together. Gone. And that's actually like the quiet thing after the meditation, where you feel like so relaxed. It's a similar picture, right? Those dots are not disconnected anymore. Those yellow teams are behind those leaders there, and it's kind of all quiet but working, and you feel energized, and you feel like everything is possible. You can do anything you want. You will change the world. So that's a starting point, right? And it's apparently happened to be quite similar picture from Boris' keynote here of the, the communication network, as he call it. So I say it's a collaborative, creative, and adaptive network. And I often give you a metaphor of a living organism where, you have your body here, right? And your body can kind of freely move this way or that way, and you have certain autonomy. But actually, there is no way that one of my hands would be on that room, and the other one would be here giving you a keynote, and the other part of my body would be checking the third floor talk, right? It is somehow connected. This thing has to make a decision. Where do we together want to be? We can fight with each other, right? So, and we are also quite adaptive. So imagine in the middle of winter you go out like this. Usually you're going to be cold right away. Oh, wow, that's cold. What shall I do? Next thought, right? Well, I have many options to take. Well, I can actually continue. I can run. Well, that helps. Or maybe I can just, go back, take a sweater, and continue again. Right? You always have many ways how to treat it. And then who knows which one is right and which one is wrong. It's such a complex ecosystem, so you don't know anymore. You can't predict. So maybe if you go without a sweater, it actually helps you because you got less ill, because you got used to cold, or you're gonna die because you got ill, and then even more ill, and then it's over, right? Who knows? You don't know before you have to try it. There are more likely to happen things and less likely to happen things. That's true. But there is no right or wrong in a complex world. It just doesn't exist because there is no way how to evaluate. So that's the fundamental belief over here. First of all, you can't plan things because it's so complex environment, so complex world nowadays. So it's impossible to plan it. It's impossible to think it over. So all we need to do is to kind of inspect and adapt and behave that way, like a living kind of organism, the network of collaborative, creative, adaptive teams, and see what happens. Inspect and adapt, right? The world was not like that in 1970s. No way, it was quite stable, so you can still predict things, you can plan and do it, and nothing happened in between. Now you plan it, and next second, there is a change. So that's the organization from the outside. Now the organization from the inside. So that's a culture model. And I've been dealing with culture for a long time. My first talk at the conference has been about agile culture. It is about changing culture. But I think I've been failing to express what the culture is about. So now I see it as a clam, right? It's like those two parts, which are going away from each other and closer to other, and away and close and away and close. Right? You can't split them apart. If you do that, it's dead. Right? So that's the organization from the internal perspective. Those two parts of the culture are mindset and structure. And we can have endless conversations if the structure should start and mindset will follow, or if you have to start with a mindset and then to change the structure with that kind of force. And it's a clam. So you look at both parts and you change that one, which is the more accessible. Where is it the most needed? So if you have really like tight structure, where is a top hierarchy, and there is like no way anyone would come up with any idea. They're just sitting here and saying like, I'm not even thinking. You just tell me what to do, and I do it. Well, then maybe you need to change the structure first to allow little space for a mindset to grow. But maybe you have it. On a paper, you don't. On a paper, it's really strict. But actually, in reality, the organization doesn't behave according to those processes on a paper. There is kind of a shadow way how we operate. I've seen a huge bank a few years back, and they've been really awesome. They've got a wonderful processes, coming from somewhere, Germany, I guess, and then they got their own, I guess, Czech way how to do that. They didn't match the processes at all, actually. We did a big visualization over the wall, and there were no intersection whatsoever. They just do things differently. So in this type of environment, well, you don't have to change the structure because no one is following it anyway. Let's work on the mindset and see what happens. Right? So to speak a little bit about those two halves, right? So from the structure perspective, we speak about the power and decision-making and structure and strategy and tactics and those type of things. We also speak about the positions and career path and all these rewards and evaluations and payments and employee number one of the month practices. And we also speak about the governance and rules and processes, right? And that's all needed in a way. But it can look like this or like that. You can be directly given your salary by your manager without even having any conversation about your performance. On the other side of a spectrum, you can be given the freedom to agree how are you going to distribute your salaries across the team. What is right and what is wrong? Well, I don't know. It's a conceptual. So in one context, you can only do this because the company is not ready for that. And it will fail miserably. On the other context, you can do that because it will give you something. And in some other context, somewhere in between, well, it's not about this or that. You just stop thinking about it and do something more meaningful. No right, no wrong, right? The mindset, that's actually where my passion is about. I love to change people's mindset because I truly believe that it is about it. But it's hard to explain, right? It's about behaviors. It's about how you feel. It's about self-organization, empowerment, and responsibility, right? And ownership. And also there is like in the middle that star. I believe we have to come up with a purpose of our existence. Why are we here as a company? Where is it coming from? What is necessary here? What is needed? Why are we here? What would happen if we disappear like this? Would anyone miss us? Or they would just go to the competitors. So we are actually not that needed, right? So what's our purpose of our existence? Our one goal, what do we want to achieve? The trust, collaboration, etc., all part of that mindset. And again, they're interconnected, right? You can't forget one and focus only on the other. So eventually I have to deal with the structure things, even if I prefer not to, because it's part of the same, again, the system of the culture, right? So how we start, right? Because that's too abstract for most of the people in the organizations. So how do we start? Just feel like, I don't know, okay, I understand that I have to be first. I have to change first. It's up to me, but I don't know what to do, they usually say. And even if they don't say that openly, it's what you sense. So what we do with those leaders in the organizations, we tell them, hey, you know what? How about if you just create a team? The leadership team here, right? And get your first experience. How about if you try Scrum? You know, it's that simple. You have a backlog, you get a Scrum Master, you iterate, you have retrospectives, you have delivery of a value at the end of each sprint. So, okay, that's simple, we try it. And then you see how difficult change it is for them. Right? But eventually that experience is crucial because they can't really build that environment suitable for this type of team without that. It's impossible. So there is a model which I came up with for my leadership classes. And the core piece of the whole thing is the system. So we want you to start to see organization not as a set of processes or governance, but as that kind of living organism, that kind of a system, right? Where is no right, no wrong, where actually you can't predict things. It's constantly adapting, changing, etc. And there are a few, and then the first thing you need to do is to actually get awareness of the system. Be able to see it and sense it and feel it. What's happening here? Oh wow, they are frustrated and they're actually happy. And those guys feel under the pressure and, right, like this. Then accept it, kind of embrace it and say, okay, that's us. I'm not evaluating myself if I like it or not, it's just us. I trust myself as a part of this system, and I'm going to do something about it. And once you get this kind of a calm feeling in your mind, then you're ready to do the last step, the act upon, which is changing the system, right? Coach them. Coaching is the most common approach at this level, because it's not about telling them what to do anymore, it's about showing them and creating an environment so they can do it by themselves. So I often say, sometimes all you need to do is to tap it like this, boom, boom, and see what happens, you know? Look at it, embrace it, and do another tick. And that one thing could be one question. So, how do you feel? Do we really deliver value to the customer? And then you start having a conversation. Oh, well, do we deliver value? Well, what is the value anyway? And they start to have those conversations and come to the customer. They don't need you very often, right? So you stay there and hold the space. That type of culture and, you know, trust them that they can do it. And the system point of view, actually that metaphor for the system is the observation tower. So you can stay there on the top, 10,000 feet distance, and see Whatever is happening down, they are below. And Boris has been saying something like the management is not here to talk to individuals. That is a similar thing. You can't talk to individuals standing 10,000 feet ahead. You only see the whole. Maybe some group here and some group there, but you don't even see what is happening in individual people's minds. It's about working with system. So listen to the voice of the system. And there are like the two rules, one which I said already, who knows what is right and what is not? Because we can't really know. It's too complex. And the other one is the positive belief, which says everyone is right, but only partially. Think about that. Everyone is right, but only partially. What would happen if you treat your employees around yourself, your team members, this way? There is always certain perspective which makes it right. Partially. Because there are always some others which might disagree. So that's a system point of view, right? Be able to take a distance and look at it from broader perspective. So the get awareness, right, that was the first point of that leadership model. So maybe it starts with you again. Those are the competencies of an agile leader, in a sense. So you must have a vision, right? And the vision is a starting point for the motivation, it's an engine, right? If you make the high purpose like of your existence, people say, oh wow, can I help you with that? And they already start moving towards it. You don't have to do much to motivate people, right? You only need to bribe them when you don't have that vision or don't have a good vision, right? Feedback. Feedback is quite important in all the agile space. And being a manager, leader in the organization, feedback is critical. But when I start to speak with managers about feedback, they usually say, yeah, I give feedback and I'm quite good at giving a feedback. There is something missing. How about receiving feedback? How many of you learn from your employees about something which you did wrong? Are they even there to tell you? Or are they so afraid that they say, no, it's good, I don't even want to tell him. She would not promote me next time, so I'm not going to tell her. So giving, but also receiving feedback. Be open to hear it. Quite important. So we have those two parts over here and there, right? We have this side and collaborate on this side. It's about you. Sometimes, even in Agile, you have to decide. Make your decisions, there is nothing wrong on it. Eventually, someone has to decide, so there is a time where you decide, and you have to be able to do that. And there is a time where we actually, it's not about delegation, it's about collaboration, where we become part of the team and do it together with them, right? Be part of the whole thing. Again, it's about you. You join and do it together. On the other side, those two, coaching, facilitation, are actually not about you. They're about them. Because you are just enabler. You're asking some questions to raise their awareness in coaching, or you facilitate and give a form of their conversation so they come up with a brilliant, wonderful ideas themselves, and they say, oh, wow, we need to do this, now I see it, thank you. That's a coaching and facilitation. You just enable with an environment and climate and raising awareness to something will happen without you even interfering, really, with the content. And the last section here on the bottom is about change. And if you think about it, you can change your organization, starting with you, right? It's all about me. So if I change and start to show up differently and start to treat people differently, well, actually, they'll change their behavior. They change their mindset. They start to do things differently as well, they will somehow follow. And that's, to me, the most difficult one. You have to change yourself. You even have to admit that you have to change. Because, for every one of us, it's like, yeah, I'm good, it's all working and it's all good. But the realization, maybe it's good, but it could be much better if I do it differently. Well, that's hard. You have to make that first step. The second part in the middle is change through them. So that's where you coach the teams, then we work with the teams, then when you may explain something to the teams, when you facilitate them, when you kind of create that environment so those structures, teams, organizations, departments can flourish. And the third thing, that's a system view. Really be able to go out, but still hold the space. Don't disappear, right? People say, go out and then see what happens. No. Hold the space. Still observe, feel the energy, and react a little bit if you feel they need it. So that's the starting point, right? Get awareness of all the system, look at yourself from all the competencies you see there. Then the second thing is about embracing. So you spend quite some time to observe the system. You hear all those voices from the people. You get the confidence that you don't have to interfere right away. You can just step back and you'll see what happens. Trust them. They're smart, creative, they'll make it. And here is another way how to look at the whole organization, right? It's based on the book Reinventing Organizations. And what he said is that there are different structures, right? You have so-called red, yellow, or amber, and orange structures, which are those traditional companies. They have a fixed structure. Either on the red side, it's like very hierarchical power with those bosses. I decide, and you just follow what I'm saying because I'm the boss here. And those orange organizations which are saying, you have your managers. Some of you might have the metric structure, so you have a multiple type of managers to listen to, and it's less power-related, but it's still very fixed. You're still following. We measure what you deliver as an individual, we really carefully watching the results, make those fixed metrics in place. We work with individuals in those type of structures because we believe fundamentally in those type of organizations that it is about individual. If we make every single individual great and successful and the smartest and the most expert person in specialization, that we're going to be altogether successful. So in some of those structures, in the orange side on that spectrum, you come up with the over-specialization because you have a person who is an expert on Java version 1, and you have a person who is an expert on Java version 2, and you have an expert on testing, an expert on automation testing, an expert on unit test, an expert on finding a chair for your company. And that person is really great because he can find the best chairs for all of us. Well, yeah. So, a great idea, but a little bit too much sometimes in the organizations. But it's coming from the belief that we have to work with individuals. And the fixed structure is the good response to the world. And actually, it used to be. Because the world, somewhere over here in the past, 1970s, been very stable, no changes, You buy a product, and then you believe you're going to have that one product for the entire life. And maybe the next generation will still going to use it. Now you buy a product like this. How long do you think I'm going to use it? Actually, it's quite useless because I have to charge it at 3 p.m. every day now. I still wear it. I didn't throw it away yet. But just because it was so expensive. And, right? So, how long do you think people are going to use your products which you are delivering? Year, 2? Well, now maybe 10. But in about 2 years, you realize that they're only using them for a year, and then they want a new one and a new one. And they have no relationship with your wonderful product. They say, it's old. It's not good enough, by the way, I can't go diving with it. With the new one, I can go diving. Right? I'm not happy already with it. So that's the dynamics which changed. And it's like significantly growing. So the fixed structures are actually here to analyze how the world and business is functioning, prepare your organization for it, grow those specialists, and keep it that way. But as the world is changing, you realize you have to do it that often so you don't even grow those people. Or you grow it once and then keep it stable and try to pretend that people would use Nokia phones. Maybe, I don't know. They still use them. Anyone here? No? Last time we got like 1 or 2 people. Anyway, so, right? So from the other side, we have that agile mindset thing, right? And this concept of those colors is saying that you have a so-called green organizations and teal organizations. And some people are making a line out of it. So they say it's going from red to amber to orange to green to teal. But I actually, in a sense, disagree with that. Because I think both green and teal are actually quite good response for adaptiveness of the whole business, of the whole world, of changing requirements and ideas and needs and constantly adapting. That's really the structure which is not having fixed structures anymore. But there is still a difference. In a green organization, that's what, Spotify videos are really speaking about. I specifically didn't say Spotify itself because they actually don't use this model anyway. But those videos are speaking about those tribes and squads and things like that. It's based on self-organization, so it's adaptive internally. But it still has a defined structure. We expect, though, this structure to move time to time, right? But it's defined. That's the green organization up there. It's working? Yeah. So the teal doesn't have it. It's a liquid structure. It's a dynamic structure. It's constantly changing. It actually almost feel like no structure. But that's not correct. And sometimes companies think that's the no management, right? But it's actually maybe no official role of a management, but we of course have leadership there. And actually anyone can become a leader in those type of dynamic structures. Any one of you can come up with a brilliant idea and say, hey, I've got this idea and I think that if we deliver this one product, we get that amount of customer and build a business case. And you try to find the followers, the supporters from the company. And if you find them, you just do it together in an iterative mode. You receive the feedback and see if it's really working. And you might be successful with that. So if we think about the percentage, what is common in our world now, most of the organizations would be still somewhere red, orange, yellow, whatever-ish, somewhere there, right? Some organizations which embrace Agile enough, they are already on a green. And very few organizations are on a teal because they say, we actually are living in such a dynamic, adaptive world, so we have to. And that's the way how to be ahead of all the others. So personally, I knew only one company which is teal. It's from Prague, I knew their owners for many years because we've been actually living in the next houses with one of those owners, so we knew the family, we've been going to school together, to Scouts together, etc., right? So I knew them well. And I've been kind of observing their journey. The first thing they did differently was at the university. They started somewhere in the first grade of university, and before they finish, they actually decided to go backwards, keep a distance, hold it as a vision. But they say we need to hire a director here. We don't want to be the executives in this company. We are the people with a vision, but we are actually blocking this organization from growing. So we give that a space. And they actually grow quite a lot. Recently, I've been speaking with one of my friends from that company, and they actually grow another company, and another company, and another company, which are now led by some employees of that previous one. And they just say, hey, we have this idea, we want to do those type of services, so we do the spin-off, and the original company is still sponsoring it and allowing people to try it and do it and, coach them, but give them a space. And it's a dynamic structure because I've seen people there coming with initiatives, doing it for a couple of years, and they say, oh, well, not anymore. Either they didn't get the outcome of it or they got some other idea, so they shifted. Right? It's a liquid dynamic structure. It can change anytime. And therefore, it's the most flexible. Now, do you need such flexibility? Well, I don't know. In certain businesses, yes. Unfortunately, that's what is requested. In certain others, well, actually, the orange would be quite good. It's a kind of a nice, company where everybody can be successful. It's not bad. Everybody has its own specialization. So if your business is not changing that much, it's actually very efficient, or could be very efficient. But after all, if you want to be successful in the world, which is constantly changing, constantly requests you to adapt, well, all you need to do is to help the others to become leaders. That's valid in both green and teal organizations. There is no real difference, right? In both of those organizations, you want some kind of an empowerment, going from bottom up and coming with ideas, innovations. The type of those innovations may differ from organization to organization, will be different in green and different in teal, but the kind of a mindset is the same. It's up to you to let it grow and support that we culture. And the fundamental belief in here, in the teal and green, is actually that we are always better than you, me, and the other person individually. So we believe that individuals has their limits. They never can be that great as a well-functioning team or system. Together, 1 + 1 is more than 2. That's a fundamental belief behind this type of thing. And it's up to you to build this, right? Now we are going to the last thing, like how to change, how to act upon the system, right? And there is a book which I would like to point you to. It's called Turn the Ship Around, and it's from US Navy commander who's been David Marquette, right? And he's been serving in the US Navy for a couple of years. He's been coming through, if you want to be a captain, you have to go through 2 years education to understand every single detail of that submarine. So he did. And half a year before he's supposed to be appointed to that submarine. They tell him, hey, by the way, we changed our mind. You're not going there, you're going there. It's not the most modern one, by the way. It's the oldest one we've got here. Quite different, but you still have half a year. So do your best and educate yourself. So he did his best, right? Educated himself. One day, they went for a test ride. And he's been standing there, as a captain. His commander next to him, he said, hey, turn the switch A. And I forgot the exact labels of those things, so let's pretend, turn the switch A. The commander said, hey, turn the switch A. And the person here in front was like, turn the switch A. And nothing happened. And he's saying, why didn't you do anything? Well, sir, there is no switch A exist in this submarine. Did you know that? Yes, sir. Why didn't you do anything? Well, you know what? Order is order, right? You order, we just follow. So that's one type of leadership. He went home and thought about it. And he's been actually trained by one of his mentors on a different style of leadership. The first one is leader-follower, where we believe that those leaders are smarter, so I can tell you what to do, and you're just going to follow. Or in an orange type of organizations, I can advise you, and you will, do it, because I'm more specialized than you are. In the Agile type of organizations, we believe that everyone could become a leader if they understand the purpose, right? So we build a different style of leadership, leader, where we build the partnerships. There is no one who always decides on certain things. That actually could be anyone. Hey, we have this problem, we have this mission. What shall we do? Anyone? I think we should do this, and I intend to do that. Right? So this whole book is sharing the story of himself, how difficult it was. And I think it was more difficult for him than for his employees, for those commandants on a submarine, right? The mind shift in your mind is the hardest. But they've been successful. They actually became one of the highest rated submarines out of the most demotivated ones. And in a few years, they got the highest rate of promotions from their crowd, because they actually all became leaders who take over the responsibility. Interesting reading, because if it's possible in that environment, are you really going to tell me that it's not possible at your environment? Not really, right? Think about that. So to summary, right, 3 tips. Agile is not your goal by itself. It's just the best way how to achieve your goals. And I truly believe in nowadays world, which is complex and constantly changing, Agile is the answer. On the other hand, if I believe that it will be the answer in the next 10 years, well, I don't know. But so far, I'm not aware about anything better. Second one, leaders means you have to start first. Change the way you think about things. Change the way you approach things. If you do that, the organization will just follow. It's as simple as that. Create a space, hold it, and they'll do it for you. And help others to become leaders. And create that we culture, because that's the empowerment. That's where 1 + 1 starts to be 3 or 4 or 5. That's the environment of the high-performing teams. That's where you truly get significantly better results. Which kind of results? Well, that's the point 1. Agile was not your goal. There was something else, more strategic. In our case, it was be more flexible and adaptive and fast learning, because their customers been coming every now and then with a different environment, different technology, different structures, and we have to be that fast, build a team, and be ready to start working. We didn't have years to say, you know what, we need to first learn this version of Java because we never worked with it before. Well, they would never hire us. They only work with us because we've been flexible. So create that we culture, because that's the thing. After all, I've got a book here, and I decided to give away one of my books, which I have somewhere maybe. Hey, here. So, anyone who wants a book must have a question. Yeah, you have a question, okay. Do you or not? Who has a question? Yeah, your turn. Yeah, you. structured, very regular, very linear life. That's something like, it's always, for me, it's always something, I'm in between. And I wanted to infiltrate, but sometimes that's something which is very difficult. Well, I think what we really do here is to create the first kind of environment experiment, the first snowball. And then let the rest of the organization just see it. So I give you an example, one from my client, one of the most smoothest, in a sense, transformation, because I actually was not leading it. That was the most surprising there. Usually people ask me, hey, can you help us? And I'm working with them and coaching them on a regular basis. But this time I did not really. The one guy came to my class, and then he implemented in his team, built such a structure. Year after, I've been there for a visit, for a day, give them some feedback, talk to the rest of the organization. And you know what my observation was? Well, they'll never change. They're like so traditional mindset, especially their owners. So there was like no way whatsoever, right? But so I forget on them. Next year, I actually got a call from one of those managers in different department, and she said, well, by the way, I like what is happening here in this team, and I like it because of this, this, and that. I was like, oh, interesting. It's okay, I would like to have this experiment in my department as well. Can you help me, and can you teach those teams? Okay. So I give a training there and show up again, like, maybe twice per year, maybe once per year, do the intervention, right? And then just disappear, let it up to them. Then eventually, step by step, each year I've been there 3 times, 2 times, something, right? For a day or 2 or 3, coaching Scrum Masters, product owners, helping them to get a feedback on all of those other structures, because they pretty much build it by themselves, learn from each other. It's been growing, right? And nowadays, I'm actually working with their executive directors, because at a certain point of time, they say, we don't know what to do. We feel disconnect. We have those self-organizing teams over here with their product owners, Scrum Masters, and actually we see it working much better than it used to. We want to understand it. Can you help us to understand it? So that's my current job, help these executive teams with their quite fixed mindset. Some of theirs were like close to my, the chairman I've been speaking at the beginning. They don't like experiments. They're conservative, but they still like it. So they're somewhere in between, figured out. So all you need to do is to guide them and be a nice guide on their journey. And don't be too pushing, because if you push, they return back. So slowly by slowly, show them that there is a different way and make it visible so it's better, and let them be attracted by that. And once they are attracted, they most likely follow.
Seeding something, planting, and leave the seed the time it needs to grow, to grow, to filter, like
Yep.
the grass into the plant,
Yep.
spread around.
Yeah. And you have to get rid of, all those other plants around which might be killing your nice flower over here. You must give it enough water, not too much, etc., etc., etc. Come back for the book at the end. And by the way, the book is just, the guide for the Scrum Masters how to be successful in an agile, world. Now you can connect with me. Otherwise, continue with your question. Sorry.
Continue your line of thought. Don't you think it's just a bit of proactiveness in the organization? Continue your question and your answer. So just seeding and waiting for other departments or the whole company to look at us and be jealous, quote unquote, and then like, oh, maybe I want to try to, or should we be more like, let me explain to you, like not immediately, of course, but with time?
Well, I would say you would be going with a picture of your flower or with the flower itself and saying, hey, you see that? It's quite nice, right? Hey, can you smell it? You know, so you'll be not waiting here, right? And saying like, hey, well, let's wait if they mention it, right? You'll be telling those stories around, sharing, right? And speaking like, hey, you know what we managed to do? Yeah, we have those problems, but they actually now, first time in our life, we managed to get the users, you know, they've been so excited. Those type of passionate stories about anything, those are those things which will attract you. Any other question?
Mike is on the way.
And it's working. I really liked the story you told in the beginning with the old chairman, very conservative, but I'm interested, do you know what changed his mind? Why he complied with your plan with the flat hierarchy and all?
Well, several things, right? First, that he really feel a need for change, right? We've been kind of very successful, growing, and then we've been on some kind of a plateau. He's been criticizing this thing a lot, and that's was behind the kind of change of the structure of the owners. So there's been some kind of internal fight, which I'm not really aware of, which gets him to be the most important, man. And then he say, hey, I want to change. We have to be bigger. We have to do this. We are going to do these things differently. We're going to be better. Those other people are not that smart enough or good enough. Things like that, right? So he make a big promise to his colleague, to himself. So he feel a strong need of a change. The second thing, and it's behind his kind of feeling he never want to be wrong. So he actually just chosen me week before with all the promotion around, like this is our new leader and we trust her and she's gonna be great or something like this, right? And then week after I would go there and he would tell me no. Well, that feels weird. So it would start, I think, the questioning, is she really a right person? Did he make a good decision? So I think I got lucky, right? Plus, at that time, he truly believed that he could change as well. He mentioned it at that time. So he felt like, well, I'm old, you're young, but I think I would like to be young as well, and I would like to have your energy, and I like what is happening. So it was not like, black and white. If it was realistic or not, well, that's the other way around, right? Actually, at the end of the story is that I left the company after 2 years because those owners changed again, right? So there was a shift again. They brought in new people, like they to another. That's how I started my own company.
That would be the second question from my side. If the other leaders of the company, maybe the bosses of your boss or other of the chairman, didn't agree with his decision and how it went down.
Well, at that time, they would agree with everything he said. He was like really the person who is, oh wow, that person is coming to us and is going to be more with this company. He's got multiple companies before, right? And it's like high respect, I would say. So nobody was questioning his decisions really at that time, right?
Great story, nevertheless. Thank you.
Okay.
Managers or leaders losing the power they want to have?
Well, that's a very good question, because actually the first time I did a transformation for a client, I failed completely because of this, right? To tell you the truth, I underestimated that fear. And we eventually make it actually successfully happen, but it was a coincidence. I don't think it was a good example of a transition, because they've been also freaking out and trying to kill it, and it slows us down and makes some damage there, right? But how do we work with it? I think they need to understand that they are still needed. So we try to intensively work with them and maybe coach them one by one and try to find out what are you specifically. You know, you used to be a software development director. Now, what are you interested in? Are you more like technical person? You want to grow that technical mindset and all those practices and, you know, help them to grow and be still on top of the industry? Or have you been more like a people manager who's been coaching people, or who could be a good coach? Or have you been like really product oriented? You've been development director, but still you've been really living by the product. It's all about the customers, and we need to do this feature and that feature. Well, right? So we'll try to figure out where's your passion. And sometimes you don't know it. So if you ask, you say, I don't know. You know, I've been doing this and this and this and that. I don't really know. So it's a coaching conversation to help those people to figure out where they would like to try to shift themselves. And very often you don't know. So the big corporations usually offer everyone to try it. So once we shifted one big department, one huge telco company, we agreed with that vice president that we don't know. We don't have a good match for neither product owner, nor scrum masters, nor the managers. So we kind of try to deal with what we have, offer the people to choose, kind of say, hey, let's try, you're going to be scrum master, we try you product owner, you might be a manager. Let's see what happens. And my role was to coach them and help them to grow into that role. So first, some of those kind of dislike it at the first and actually become quite supportive and great scrum masters, for example. The other guy was like, yeah, I think I can do it and I would like to try it and it's something new. So he's been very optimistic at the beginning, but he actually realized through that journey that he doesn't want to be a scrum master. He was more like product-oriented, technical-oriented, so he shifted somewhere else. But I think there is a safety, right? The vice president said everyone that they're not going to lay off people. You can for free to try it. Here is a support. You can ask this person for any help you want, you know, and you can do it. So I think the safety is a prerequisite.
So you started to get the people from the role to the person again. So the approach is person-centered.
I think the roles are unimportant, right?
Me too. But
so it's more about what you do. And eventually, that's what we do in a lot of organizations. We just make all those positions less and less and less important. So eventually, at the end, no one really cares which position they have because they feel, okay, do I do something meaningful? Do I understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it? And do I know how to become better? Do I get the feedback, right? But I will work with all those managers and try to make them feel safe. And I think that's the most important. Tell them we need you. And we actually need you even more than before.
Thanks.
And I think the time is over, unless you want to continue, I don't know. Then there's the lunch, right? So we can, I guess. So, yeah. One more, last one.
Thank you. Your personal opinion, do you think agile leadership is a product of our modern time and all these fast changes? Or that in the whole history, the great leaders always were agile, but we didn't have the name for it?
I think agile is nothing new. It's been here for thousands of years. We just didn't call it that way, right? And we used to have those type of leaders through the whole thousands of years, time to time, right? It depends. And that's what we always wanted to build. When we call that person boss and give him a position, we felt that's the person who should do something like this. Help the other people to grow, make it smooth, efficient, right? It kind of failed, so we say, hey, no bosses, right? Come on, no bosses, we want the managers. And I believe, again, myself, that we believe that that's all we want. But because those managers are more like an Excel sheet administrators now, in many cases, then we are moving to another world, say, leaders, right? And I believe that the leaders start to be used in the same weird context now, so we are waiting for another name. So after all, it's not about a name. And I don't care if we label it or not. It's about a different way of thinking, about the philosophy, about those values, about the approach, and about that fundamental belief that everyone is right. And there is no wrong and right anyway. But everyone is right just only partially, right? The trust in people, trust in a system. And if you have it, you're close to something which we nowadays call agile leadership, and we will relabel it, I'm quite sure. It will not sustain as a label, unfortunately. Or fortunately, who knows? Maybe we finally got it. Right, so thank you very much. You can connect with me. I'm here today, tomorrow. So more than welcome to have a chat with me about anything. We've got about 10 books at the registration desk to be sold, and you please come here for this one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zuzi.